I'm Rosie Gilbert, and I'm the harp player with the Central Wisconsin Symphony, and I'm sitting here with Pat Miles, who is our conductor. Pat, what is the stick for?
This is a baton, and it's made out of wood when the end of it is just a little bit larger so you can hold it. And this is what I use to direct the orchestra. And so depending on what gestures I give the orchestra, it should influence how they play. So if I want them to play loudly, I may give a much bigger gesture. If I want soft, it'll be small. And then I do the beat patterns, because music is in, a waltz, a dance will be in 3, marches will be in 2. And so if I want something in 2, we go down for 1 and up for 2. Down, up, down, up. If it's a waltz, like I said, it's in 3, it'll be down to the right, up, down to the right, up. And then in 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So as a conductor, we just turn on a beat pattern. We have to be able to not think about it and be able to switch beat patterns all the time. Really, we just have motor memory so that your body knows what to do without having to think about that part of it.
Do you have to use the baton?
No, some conductors prefer not to. I used to not use it, but I got comments from some of the orchestra members years ago that they thought it was easier to follow if I used the baton, so I started using a baton again. Back in the very, very, very early days, the conductor would stand in front of the orchestra with a great big stick, and they would pound it on the floor, and that would be the beat, so you would hear it. So it was like sort of having a drum in the orchestra. But we found this is a lot less, it just doesn't get in the way as much.
A little more elegant, maybe.
Yes.
And why do you conduct instead of playing an instrument?
That's a great question. The first concert I ever conducted, I was in 8th grade, and I conducted the junior high orchestra that I was playing cello in. I had written a piece for the orchestra, and I really got a taste even back then of how much I enjoyed conducting. I started off as a piano player in 3rd grade, and then added cello in 5th, and then became a horn player in 9th grade. And after about a year, I knew horn was my instrument, and so I continued to play horn. In fact, played principal horn in this orchestra, which is first chair horn, for many, many years before I started conducting.
And does the orchestra really need a conductor? I mean, what's the point?
Well, that's probably a good question for some of the orchestra members. They may answer it differently than I do. But it really is, when you have 80 people on the stage, you need one person being able to direct it to help us stay together. And again, it's my job to not only make sure we stay together, I have to make all the musical decisions, where we're going to play the loud, where we're going to play soft, if we want notes long, if we want notes short, the stylistic changes. When the students come hear our concert, we'll be playing a brand new piece, a premiere, and that may be different than how we're doing some of the Shostakovich that we'll play for the students. So my job is to interpret it differently. But again, one of the main things is to be able to keep the orchestra together.
And how do you know what to do? Or do you just kind of wave your arms around?
It may look like that sometimes. We study in conducting classes and in lessons. There are pretty established beat patterns, like I said earlier, how you want to show the orchestra what we're going to play in. And there are also pretty established gestures, for loud or soft or trying to speed things up. Even though conductors all have very individual styles, the basic information that we're trying to convey to the orchestra is the same.
And where do you get that information?
Well, it would be different. If I'm playing Mozart, the style of playing Mozart would be much lighter than, say, if I'm playing a Brahms symphony, because a Brahms symphony would have been written 50 years later, and so it would be different. Some contemporary music, some new music, has really wild stuff in it. So I have to look at the page and try to decipher what I think the composer wants, and then it's my job to interpret that for the orchestra.
Okay. And it looks like you brought a score for us.
I did.
So maybe we'd be able to take a look.
And this is a piece that we're actually playing on our concert in October. And just to show what I have to do, here's a page of the orchestra, and you can see the number of people in the orchestra. So the top line are the flutes, so we have 2 flutes, we have 2 oboes, we have 2 clarinets, we have 2 bassoons, we have 4 horns, we have 3 trumpets, we have 3 trombones, we have a tuba, we have 3 separate percussion parts. In this particular one, we're supposed to have 2 harp parts, but they've been edited out, so I'm sorry you don't get to play, Rosie. And then the first violin part, the second violin part, the viola part, the cello part, and the bass part. So my job is I have to look at this whole page and look at everything at once and try to figure out what's the most important, so to bring that out, what parts are not important so they can not get in the way of what the melody might be. And if you look here, this is a very complicated page for us, because here the flutes and oboes and clarinets and bassoons are playing 16th notes, da 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 da, but the brass are having to play 7 notes against that 8, so it just sounds like a riot. And then down here, the percussion are doing lots of rolls, which means very fast sounds, and the strings are just sort of going up and down, so it sounds like a cacophony. It sounds like chaos at this part in the page, but it's really fun.
Wow, cool. Just one more question. Why does everyone in the orchestra wear black?
I think musicians have always been somewhat formal in classical music, and I think also, I've been thinking about this question. I think it's a sign of respect that we show for the audience, that we treat our trade, our art, our craft of making music, so we take it so seriously, and we want to show that respect for the audience, that we're doing that. As you can see, for me, I'm not in my normal concert clothes.
Me either.
When I'm not doing that, I prefer to wear a Hawaiian shirt, but for the concert, I will be in black tails and white tie.
Great, thank you.